She can change. We gotta talk. Years on her. Oh, this is Kim.
Oh, 21 days in her workout outfit.
I had to wait till the laundry was done.
It's not easy though.
Where's my t-shirt, George?
Oh, shit.
I think we probably got 500 of these on.
No, they ordered them. I figured as much.
Hey Siri, I don't know. She want to start the meeting.
Good morning.
It is now 6 p.m. Good evening, everyone. It's our special meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 24th, 2023, and we're going to start with our roll call. Ms. Holman?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Cobb Muniz?
Here.
Councilmember Curley,
Yeah.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Here.
Mayor Owens?
Here. The next item is hearing of the public. Hearing of the public. I don't see too many people. Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm gonna just try to stick to the script because I thought long and hard about this, of what I wanted to say. My name is Donovan Gomez. I'm a resident of Ottawa County. I'm not even from this county, but I came here for some very pressing issues around the state of Michigan. Okay, so dear Eastpointe City Council Hall, today is declared as a special meeting. Well, for what I'm about to tell you is a very special, pressing, and important issue. I am not a resident of this county. As a matter of fact, I'm a resident of Ottawa County. I felt it important today to speak on very pressing issues regarding accountability. I started my day waking up early from my house around 4:30 a.m., traveled for a period until I reached my destination. My destination was the 36th District Court. Although your jurisdiction does not encompass the 36th District, I find it essential to the message. The breaking news started on the day that I was in my hotel room. A young woman shot in the neck at a Sunco on so-and-so street. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition. I followed up on this story, and the suspect was released on a previously lowered bond. The TV on the news outlet interviewed the victim's mother, where no tether was mandated for the accused. The mother was afraid of her and her daughter's life. This story is all too common in the vast metropolis of Detroit. Some may state, well, it must be the guns. Let's target those. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but it is not. It is those criminals who take the law into their own hands, those vigilantes whose affiliation with criminal activity long terrorizes their community. How did we get here to this point? A lack of accountability. Accountability is a word that starts with A, which is the letter first of the alphabet and priority number one for me. This story I just described lacks it significantly. I do not like using excuses nor scapegoats for my actions. That because I'm black scapegoat is not a hindrance to this community's, or is a hindrance to this community's psychological growth, but also dangerous and could potentially turn toward violent extremism. When I exited the Eastpointe Library right across the street, I saw a sign that reads in capital letters, "Police Reform Now." I would like to point out the fact that I was not shot while publicly protesting in the 36th with full tactical gear and was free to go. That was a win for the DPD. I am not a police officer. I think these issues go deeper than any one person. It takes accountability from all of us to follow the laws, get involved peacefully with our local governments, petition a government for redress of grievances.
Second.
Okay. So, culture. For today, when I asked the good citizens of Eastpointe issues they would like to address, they said, I do not know. This reminds me of the haunting similarities I read about Elie Wendell's book called The Night. It is a book about dying twice, which is physical death. So basically, culture, accountability, and we need more accountability. So That's pretty much it. And I'm not gonna use any excuse of because I'm black this or because I'm black that, not gonna do it.
Time
So,
is up, sir.
thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great one. Anyone else would like to speak at this time? Okay.
I have some written remarks. Hello, my name's Karen Boutz. I've lived in this city for over 40 years. I told you that previously. The only time I've ever spoken at city council meetings were 2 times back in September. At that September 6th meeting, I came to speak in support of a city council member who I thought was being outrageously, and I did use that word, targeted by this mayor, who is a former Wayne County deputy, in an attempt to embarrass and humiliate him because he yelled at her at the Gratiot Cruise. Those criminal charges against him were dropped. The PPO was denied. At that September 6th meeting, I was interrupted by this mayor. I was not allowed to continue after I only spoke for about 1 minute. I was yelled at. I was scolded for about 2 minutes. I was accused of assaulting, and she's smiling. I was accused of assaulting her, and yet she smiles. In a very public, televised forum. I attended the next city council meeting because I felt I had to respond to these charges that she made against me and to deny assaulting her, as she was at that time involved in a very public PPO request against a councilman who also was accused of verbally assaulting her. I've been coming to all the council meetings since then. I've silently listened. I've just sat here. In the past 4 months, I have been accused of assault, foolishness, of being a liar, of being a racist, and bringing crime into this city, all because I disagreed with Monique Owens. I believe that Eastpointe has many serious problems, but I truly doubt that I am one of them. Although this mayor is trying very hard to make this all into racial issues, I strongly disagree. The issues are honesty,
You have 30
integrity,
seconds.
professionalism, and the ability to do this job she was elected to do. I strongly disagree with her portrayal of this city and her inflammatory comments, and she's still smiling. Also, I think it's unfair for residents to be subjected to tirades, and I'm requesting that the mayor and city council be limited to 3-minute remarks, as we are.
Your time is up. You get an additional 3 minutes at the end.
I feel that council members already.
Your time is up. You
within
get
this
additional
time.
3 minutes to continue your positive words. Anyone else would like to speak?
Because this is a special meeting, there's no hearing of the public at the end of this meeting. There's just one hearing of the public.
Oh, okay. So sorry. At the next meeting that we have next Tuesday, you can finish your speech. Anyone else would like to speak at this time? Any more positivity? Okay. The hearing of the public is now closed. We're going to go to a closed session for attorney-client privilege communication pursuant to MCL 15.268. Counsel?
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support, please call the roll.
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Cobb Muniz,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes. We'll be back out for new business. If you all would like to stay, it shouldn't be that long. We are now back in session. And on the closed session, we had attorney-client privilege communication pursuant to MCL 15.268. Counsel? Motion?
Well, motion to follow the recommendation of our legal counsel.
Second.
Motion and support. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilmember Cobb Muniz?
Yes.
Next is new business. We're going to item A, our capital improvement plan. Yes, we have our AEW, Mr. Kern here. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Presented to you tonight is the updated capital improvement program for this year. We always put together a 6-year capital improvement program that goes along with the budget here, and this is the draft that we presented here tonight. So this goes all the way up to the 2028-29 fiscal year. It's broken down again into 4 different sections: major streets, local streets, water, and sewer. So I'll go through each one individually here as to what we've updated this to. For the major street fund, we've got an amount of money, $150,000 in there for joint sealing. We just finished a 2-year joint sealing program that focused on the local streets. Didn't focus on really any of the major streets, so we're looking at doing some major street joint sealing. You'll see in the local street fund, we do have, in the years where we don't have anything for major streets, we've got something in the capital improvement program for local streets. We've got the Kelly Road traffic signal modification project that's going to be taking place in the next fiscal year. That project is designed and it's with MDOT currently for their review and approval. That project does include upgrading to decorative mast arms at the intersection of 9 Mile and Kelly. City received a $450,000 grant with no match on that, and then the additional cost involving those decorative mast arms. And then the city's been fortunate enough to get federal aid assistance on several major road projects through the local agency program. We're working with MDOT on those. We've done Topher, Old 8 Mile, Stevens, all the major streets we've gotten some federal aid money for in the last several years. Pretty much every year for the last several years we've had federal aid assistance. And now we're in the process of starting the reconstruction of 9 Mile, which will be done in 3 phases. The first phase, the water main portion of that, is wrapping up here this week, and we'll be doing the reconstruct from the west city limits to Gratiot here this spring, summer, and then that'll be followed up with Gratiot to Tuscany, and then along with the federal aid assistance that we've been getting, we also are receiving funding through that $1.7 trillion omnibus package that was passed here in late December as well. The city's fortunate to get almost $4.4 million out of that to do the last phase of 9 Mile, which will now include reconstruction all the way to I-94. So 81.85% of the construction costs on those projects are covered through federal aid assistance. And then also in the capital improvement program, we've also applied for federal aid assistance for a reconstruction of Topher from Kelly to Beaconsfield and to do concrete patching on Hayes from Stevens to 10. Those projects are currently on a contingency list with the Macomb County Federal Aid Committee, and those hopefully will get funded in the years that we have shown there. In the local road fund, for the past 4 years, we've been doing a concrete pavement patching program, basically removing and replacing defective panels of concrete on the fair-rated streets. We last evaluated the streets in 2020. Typically, it's recommended that we evaluate the streets every 3 years, so we'll be due again this fall to reevaluate all the streets. But as far as the patching program, streets that were rated a 4 or 5 out of 10 are addressed with this program. So we divided the city into 13 maintenance districts. The goal was to do 1 district per year. We're actually ahead of that. We just finished the 4th year of the program, and we are into Area 7. So this next year, our plan is to finish Area 7. We have 1 year left in the contract with Italia Construction, so we'll finish Area 7 this year. And then that, basically everything south of 9 Mile will have then been addressed. So then starting in 2024, we'll move into Area 8 and start working north of 9 Mile, and we've budgeted $700,000 worth of work on that every year. 2 years ago, the city did do an asphalt resurfacing program. We did resurface a section of Roxana north of Stevens, a block of Holland, and 3 blocks of Stricker. It was about $800,000 to do that project 2 years ago. We haven't done any asphalt resurfacing since then. There's really no plan to do that. I know at the time we were doing that project, council basically wanted to, as far as any improvements to streets, we're looking at full reconstructs and not necessarily in favor at that time of doing a mill and fill, where we would mill off 2 or 3 inches of asphalt. There's several streets where they're concrete streets where they've been capped with asphalt over time. We would mill that asphalt layer off and put a new asphalt layer, usually about 15 to 20 year design life on that. That's something we may want to revisit again. It's roughly about 1/3 of the cost to do that over a full reconstruct. But right now we don't have anything in the capital improvement plan for that. Again, we do have some money in here for joint sealing. With the joint sealing program, because we started with the concrete patch repair program at the south end of the city, our focus with the joint sealing was to start at the north end of the city and basically meet in the middle at some point. Since we're not addressing those streets at the north end, we thought we would start with the joint sealing at the north end and work our way down. We have been fortunate to get community development block grant funding to do some street improvements. The city can apply for up to 2 projects through the bricks and mortar program, both projects at a maximum of $150,000. So we've been fortunate enough to do a block of Almond Avenue last year from Semrau to Stevens. We did a block of Roxana from Norton to Semrau the year before. We don't have anything this year, but next year we're looking to apply for Lexington, north of Stevens, 1 block north of Stevens. That's estimated at about $225,000. So we're looking at hopefully get $150,000 in CDBG funding for that. And we've put in money every year that we're hopeful that we'll get some CDBG funding for future road improvement projects as well. And then added to this was the Mott Avenue reconstruction from Kelly to Beaconsfield that'll take place this year, which came out of the ARPA funding that the city received. And there's currently no local street reconstruction projects on the capital improvement plan. There's not a lot of money that the city receives through the Act 51 program for local streets. Most of that money is going to maintenance, plowing, payroll. By the time you get through that, there's not a whole lot left for capital improvement. There's not a lot in the fund balance for that program, so that's why there's no full reconstructs at this time.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
We haven't talked about this in a while sometimes. Since I don't do the construction part of it, sometimes I forget. What's the difference between the asphalt resurfacing and the joint sealing?
The joint sealing is basically just filling of joints and cracks with rubber sealant.
Okay.
So we removed what's there. If whatever's left of that, we remove and we put new sealant in. So it prevents water from getting in underneath the roadway. So try to stop further deterioration of the road. Try to extend the design life of the roadway. Where the asphalt resurfacing, we're actually removing the full asphalt layer that currently exists and putting a new layer down.
Okay, because I thought we were doing that for a while. Like I said, on here, it doesn't show that we have that coming up anytime soon. So I know you used to give us the PACER rating,
Correct.
and I don't know if this is in here, but the PACER rating showed what I think all the council had, some of us who was up here, going back to what you were saying, wanted reconstruction, and we
Right.
can't afford that right now.
Correct.
So according to a PACER rating, what streets may need that instead of them waiting for reconstruction?
Yeah, we do know there are several streets that we know of based on the PACER rating that we would recommend to do a mill and fill. I know some of the streets that we've been looking at, there's several down at the south end, sections of Juliana, Ego, Boulder, I know Ash Street, east of Kelly. There's some streets in the northeast corner of the city as well that were rated on the poor end, north of Stevens, east of Kelly. There's a fair amount of streets out there that would be good candidates for that type of work.
Is there any way we can, I guess you can put that somewhere in here so we can see those numbers and those streets and the rating? Are the streets you were talking about, what PACER rating, is that the highest one? Or where are
Yeah, they would typically be poor, anywhere from a rating of 1 through 4.
Okay.
1's the worst rated. Basically, a 1 is rated basically a street that has failed, where a 10 is a brand new street.
Because on here, it shows that we're not attempting to do anything to those streets. And if we don't do anything, how would that look? because you're talking about all the
Right.
way to 2029.
Right, and as the street continues to deteriorate, at some point, it's gonna be beyond the point of being able to do a mill and fill, and you're gonna be forced to do a full reconstruct, which could cost 3 times or more to address that street.
If I may.
Yes, ma'am, please.
So just to clarify, for the streets that you mentioned, I heard you mention Juliana, Eagle, Boulder. The plan for those, based on the PACER rating, would be to do repavement, resurfacing, just what?
Those sections that currently have an asphalt cap, most likely we would be looking to do a mill and fill, where we would remove the asphalt cap. And along with that, we would replace any defective concrete panels underneath as part of that. Usually, maybe 20 to 30% is usually what we estimate as far as concrete base repairs underneath that asphalt layer that we would include as part of the project. It's still gonna come in a lot less than what a full reconstruct would be.
If I may,
Yes,
I
sir,
have
please.
a question for our finance director. I'm just gonna ask how much money do we have available to tackle I don't know how it was broken up between major and local streets.
For major streets, at the end of fiscal year '23, if we do everything that's been budgeted, we would end with about 2.4 million, which is sufficient to cover the projects that are projected out here, even going forward as the funds come in. Local streets would actually end the year with about $81,000. I don't think we can even plow the streets in December for that amount of money. So we're always saying we're short money in local. That is true. Now, part of that was we were doing 2 sections of city per year instead of 1 on the concrete replacement. We had the funding. We wanted to get as much done as possible. And now we're going to have to back off and stick to the 1 section per year because we just don't have the funding for anything more than that.
So, Mr. Blum, do we have the ability to take any of the leftover from major streets and use that for local?
We transfer 50% of the major street money today. When we get our asset management plan in place, we would be allowed to transfer up to 100% of the major street funds. But based on the projects on the schedule, that'd be after fiscal year '26, when all the major streets are complete, that we would then have the ability or the funds available to transfer that kind of money. But for the next 3 years, we're kind of stuck with this 50% transfer.
Happening with what the councilwoman just said, instead of waiting all the way to 2026, which is 3 years, we couldn't take a bond out to cover those local streets. If we're gonna have the money, then we can pay it right back. Of course, with interest.
You can do a bond, and it would be paid back with street funds. There's an option to do, put it out to a vote of the people and do a millage that would raise funds as well, but that would have to pass a vote of the people. But yes, a bond could be issued to do some repairs now. That would just cut into future funds because now some of that money is going to have to go to pay the bond instead of fixing roads. So you'd have to determine, is doing it now going to solve enough of the problems that we can delay spending in future years while we pay the bond off?
That's why I was asking Mr. Kern, how does those, if we are at the higher PACER rating and we're waiting 3 years for those streets, how would that look? I mean, we just spent some money on MOP because it got that bad. And I don't think we were expecting that. So I don't want that to happen in the future where we just have to put all this money out in an emergency.
Right,
So-
yeah, the longer you wait to do anything, obviously that PACER rating is gonna decrease and, risk further deterioration of the street, which could become more costly to address.
So it sounds like if we don't do a bond, if we do a bond, it seems like we're still saving money because you said once you transfer the major street money to local, that will cover somewhat some of the bond because you said it will come to us in 3 years, right? But if we wait and don't take a bond, we're still going to be paying out more money. It's going to be probably time to reconstruct it.
That's a possibility. That's what the engineers decide.
I'm not there yet.
If I may, the next item on the agenda is designating the revenue replacement funds. Our recommendation from administration is to designate those funds into local roads, and then we could have conversations. If that's what council would like to do, we could have a conversation in adding funding into the resurfacing of those roads, and we would have the funding if council voted to designate those funds to local roads.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one more
I was
question for
about to ask.
clarification from Mr. Blum? You mentioned a road millage. If we went that route, what amount of millage are we talking about?
Based on current taxable value, it depends how much you're trying to raise. It would be probably 3.75 to 4 mils just to generate a little over 2 million a year towards roads.
Can you send out that presentation you gave a few years ago, back out to everybody?
Yeah.
I think that was right before the pandemic, maybe?
Yep. Yeah, and the one issue with the bond, doing it now, is the interest rates are up. So it would cost us more. But if you wait, it costs more because of inflation. So you got to decide when the right time is to do something like that. 9 months ago would have been good.
I guess I would like to see the cost of, I don't know if council wants to, those streets that Mr. Kern.
Sorry, what was that again?
I would like to, probably council may agree that those streets that you were saying that are at a high rate, pacer rate, how much would that look if we did do asphalt? So we can have a number.
Yeah, we could definitely, that wouldn't take us much to do. We could definitely put something together that shows those streets that would be candidates for a mill and fill and have a rough idea of what that cost would be.
Okay,
We
thank
could definitely
you.
do that.
Anything else? I mean, we're gonna continue to talk, I don't know. I don't want to interrupt anyone, council.
Just one quick question about the Mott Avenue. We're not doing the 2 courts, it's just Mott, right?
That's correct. The 2 courts did have concrete patching done on them in 2020.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see they're yellow on our map, so not in too bad a shape.
And I think we're on the water and sewage
All right.
now.
We'll move on to the sewer.
If council's ready to move on to that, think so?
All right. So moving on to the sewer, in 2021, we started a citywide sewer cleaning and televising program. We divided the city into 5 maintenance districts for this, starting west of Gratiot, starting at 10 Mile, working our way south and basically going counterclockwise around the city. We've gotten through the first 3 maintenance districts and probably about half of District 4 at this time. We're looking to probably complete that work here this summer. It was about just over $1.25 million to do that. Based upon the evaluation that we've done, we've identified several areas, defects, basically structural defects that need to be addressed with the sanitary sewer system, either with a cured-in-place pipe liner installed or a sectional removal and replacement of the sewer. We did address those defects that were rated as critical or high in District 1 here this year. It was roughly $1.5 million worth of work between the lining and the sewer repairs that were done. Our estimate is that the remaining districts will probably be about the same. We have evaluated District 2 and have identified that it's about roughly the same cost in order to address those critical and high locations. So as we continue on through the city, we'll be identifying additional locations. As part of that, the city has in the past, and we're looking at applying potentially for a state revolving fund loan in order to address those items. With all of the infrastructure money that's been coming through, it's expected that there could be a significant amount of principal forgiveness given on those loans through the infrastructure bills that have come through the federal government. So our intent is to apply for a state revolving fund loan here this year and see where that goes and see what we can get out of principal forgiveness. But hopefully we can get some of that funded through the federal government through those grant programs. In the capital improvement program in future years, we also show that the city should continue the cleaning and televising program. It's usually recommended every 5 years that you clean and televise the system. So starting in the 2026-27 fiscal year, we would be starting that cycle over again, working in District 1 west of Gratiot and working counterclockwise through the city again. I don't know if there's any questions on the sewer end.
Does that have anything to do with when you go, will you be replacing lead pipes too once you go and do all these things, correct?
That'd be coming up in the water, the lead water services. We've got that included in the water fund.
Okay, that's the next page. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So on the water main side, the city recently received a drinking water revolving fund loan, the first phase of the revolving fund loan, which was $6 million in loan, and then there was also a $2 million drinking water infrastructure grant that the city received. So that's going to fund the replacement of Beechwood Avenue from Juliana to 9 Mile, the west side of Gratiot from 8 to 9 Mile, and it's also going to replace almost 100 lead water services on Tuscany between Topher and 9 Mile, and that work is to start next week. We're expected to get additional phases of work through the drinking water revolving fund, so you'll see in future years the cost, that payback cost continues to increase, but we're looking at a total of a $20 million loan phased out over 3 or 4 years. So there'll be additional water main replacements as part of that, mostly looking at replacing further water main on Gratiot. We're also replacing water main ahead of the 9 Mile reconstruction projects. So in here, we've got the Tuscany to Kelly section in here at roughly $2 million for the 23-24 fiscal year. Water main from Kelly to 94 is relatively new, so we won't be replacing that section of the water main. And then we've also, the city generates enough revenue to do water main replacements outside of the work that's being done under the drinking water revolving fund loan. So we've got future annual water main replacement programs set in this capital improvement program, anywhere from $1 million to $1.5 million each year. And then at the bottom, you'll see we've got the lead water service replacement program budgeted at roughly $1 million per year. We did start the first phase of that here in December, and we've got, I think, roughly 70 services have been replaced out of that program so far since the 1st of December, and we'll continue to replace those using up that $1 million budget. To date, the city has replaced, as of last Friday, we've replaced 310 lead water services, and we replaced this week another 7 on 9 Mile, and I think as far as the general lead water service replacement, we've had some this week as well. We continue to do that this week as well. So, and then on top of all the water main replacement projects, this year on Birchwood, Firwood, Beechwood, Gratiot, 9 Mile, at least 214 more will be replaced through those programs on top of what we do in the general lead water service replacement program. So that will definitely put you ahead of the game as far as getting 5%. That Eagle is requiring that 5% of your lead services be replaced each year for a period of 20 years, which started in 2021. So all lead water services have to be replaced by 2041. So that will put you ahead of the game on that. If any questions on that, I'll entertain those.
Now with the lead service lines, when you all replace those, I don't know how old they are, but do we still have the information of who was the maker of those pipes? Because when I went to Washington, D.C., I met a law firm that was telling me, asking me some of our challenges, and I let them know one was the lead lines. And they said they are a law firm that actually go for those people that make those lines and have them pay for those lead lines. So I don't know if Mr. Albright heard anything about us going for the companies to help us pay for these things because of their product. And they said that they have done that, and it has worked for some communities.
If you can provide me with the name of the law firm, I'd be happy to reach out to them.
Yeah, I'm not aware. All the lead water services that are in the system are pre-1950.
Okay. So I don't know if we can find. Do they even still make that maker still makes them or any?
Yeah, no
like
lead is
that?
placed today. Yeah, there's no
Okay.
water service.
I'll still give you the information just to see what they came up with. 'Cause it was. Thank you, Council.
Questions?
The last section, which we did add here this year, I didn't have in past capital improvement programs, was the building fund as well. I think this was passed out to you here today. We put 2 line items into this as well, one for the new police and district court facility. We don't have any costs into that yet, or really have a timeline on that yet, but we'll be adding that soon. I know we're just starting to get into the preliminary stages with the architecture, or with getting preliminary estimates on the architectural work. I know we have a kickoff meeting on that this week here with city administration, so we'll probably have a better idea in the next couple of months as far as preliminary costs to that. And then with the recent lease extension with the military museum, I know there was I don't know, 30-year capital improvement program that was put together a couple months ago on that. We did spread those costs out here into this capital improvement program as well, as far as any maintenance, capital improvement projects that need to be done at the military museum. We did add that in here as well, so.
Any comments? Council, on either one of those?
What about the rest of the city buildings?
Have you done, didn't you do a need study a few years ago?
I believe we did do a needs study a few years ago. That would have been before I was
Okay.
back here, but yeah, I
Have to
think.
dig that out and see
Yeah, we
what's
can
left.
take a look at that and see what needs to be added from that.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is we've replaced 3 of the heating cooling units on City Hall. They're reaching the end of their life, so we'll probably be budgeting for 2 coming up in '24 and 2 coming up in '25 to replace them. Libraries should be in pretty good shape. We renovated at least the field operations building over at 10 Mile a couple of years ago. I think the garage is in pretty good shape. What about the old Parks building? Okay. Yeah, I think we've hit on most of the stuff over the past 15 years. So they should be in pretty good shape for anything major anyways.
Mr. Blum, is the need study something that can be made available to council for those of us who want to get caught up?
As soon as Ryan finds it.
Yeah, definitely make it available.
Any other questions, council?
What grants have we applied for then for our new, well, proposed new police and court building then?
We've not applied for any grants at this time. It's something that we've spoke about in December in terms of reviewing the property. We've been waiting for a phase 2 to come back so that we understand the current needs of the building and the property so that we can.
Okay. Thought that's why we rushed the December meeting to be able to apply for those.
Nothing was rushed. We asked for a decision so that we could properly plan for what we were going to do with the building. So we didn't rush to do it. We asked council to make a decision on the property so that we could plan for 9 Mile, so that we could have the conversations and start rolling in terms of planning for how the easements were going to look, how the property was going to look as we build 9 Mile out. And then once we knew the decision on the building, we could also inquire about grants that would be available based on the use of the property.
Yeah, I didn't mean rushed as like a negative thing. I just meant because the deadlines were coming up and I thought we were doing that. So like that one blight, the blight grant was due, you were saying, in January.
It is, but one of the requirements is understanding the needs of the property. So until we have all of that information back, we can't put in for the grant until that's completed. So we have to have a full scope of that so that we can put in for those grants.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Oh, yes, ma'am.
the phase 2 just came in very late this afternoon, so no one's had a chance to look at it.
Okay. And knowing you, I know you're gonna send that to us as soon as you can. And, maybe that would be something we can put on the next agenda once we get that.
Oh, sorry.
On you.
Oh, what'd you say? Sorry.
I said maybe once she sends that to us, then we can put that possibly on
Oh,
one of
sure.
our agendas for a conversation.
Okay.
Okay. Any other things you all want to talk about? We have our DPW director. I don't know if you want to add anything. Okay. Does that conclude your presentation, Mr. Kern?
That does,
Uh,
yes.
No questions, council, before we go to the next item?
Maybe one more. Sorry, I
Of
meant
course,
to,
Mr. Councilman DeMonico.
it was for a previous one and I forgot. For the lead lines then, what year do you think we will be complete? Yeah,
Hard
not
to-
holding you to it, but just, because it goes to the end of our, plan here in the agenda. I was just curious, is it maybe 1 or 2 more years, or how many more years we think?
To complete all lead water services in the city?
Yeah.
Hard to say, I mean, it's gonna be several years yet, but, I mean, the rate that we are replacing them, it's definitely gonna be ahead of the deadline of the year 2041 if we continue to replace it in the rate that we are, but I guess I can't really give an answer as to that. It's dependent upon funding that's available and grants as well.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilman?
Nope.
Okay,
Thanks, Mayor.
thank you. The next item is the designation of revenue replacement funds. I know, City Manager, did you want to talk about this a little bit? I know you.
Sure. So in a previous meeting, administration had recommended to allocate $1.4 million to the Mott Avenue reconstruction based on the condition of the road. And we are at the point where we would need to designate where the remaining funding will be designated. Our recommendation, based on the needs of the community and the outreach that we've heard, as well as the lack of funding in local roads, would be to add the remaining balance or allocate the remaining balance to local streets and lighting.
I'm happy to make a motion for that. All right, well, I will move that we allocate the revenue replacement funds in the amount of $1,971,351.19 for local streets and lighting.
Second.
No, I'm doing Councilman DeMonico on here. I just wanted to ask a question. Can we use, I thought we were using some of this money for our lead lines. The rest of it, to fix them.
It's something that can be designated based on the funding, and Mr. Kern had mentioned the drinking water funds that we had, the $2 million. We are hopeful that there is potential more money, and we're already designating an additional $1 million every year for lead lines, and we're ahead of the game in terms of replacing them. We have no money coming down the pipeline for local roads, so that is why our recommendation would be to allocate that money to local roads, and then we will still be really hitting it hard in terms of finding funding and utilizing that grant money to replace lead lines. And then we have the $1 million allocated every year from our budget to replace lead lines as well.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I could ask the city manager, I understand local streets. I wonder if you could give us a rundown of what you mean by lighting.
That's Randy's favorite subject. Well, we did just have a meeting with DTE in terms of street lighting. Do you want to kind of highlight what's coming down with that?
Well, I'll address this question. The lighting in here was directed towards additional solar lighting throughout the city. We're doing a CDBG grant. We're going to put in, I think, 15 or 16 lights. But the idea was to put in solar lights at mid-block, and that part of this could be used for that. It doesn't have to, but part of it could be.
How much you talking about?
Well, we have to go out for bid first to see how much per pole they're going to be, and then we can address that at a later date of if council wants to do that, and if so, do they want to take it out of this money? But we just wanted it kind of a broad designation for this evening to get it into local streets. As far as the lighting that the city manager referred to, we have been working with DTE to get, I won't call them decorative, but nicer looking street lights along 9 Mile. They came up with the initial proposal. It was over $500,000. We worked with them on an alternate plan. They've got it down to $244,000, and we will be able to finance that over 5 years. So the idea is this would come out of the street lighting special assessment. We would put nice looking lights along the south side of 9 Mile and then remove the current lights on the north side and the south side and they would be able to light the whole street with that. So it would give kind of a atmosphere for the whole road as it gets reconstructed. We hope to have the contract ready to bring to council for the next meeting.
And if I could piggyback on that as well, designating the funds does not say or specify which specific streets in the budget. That is time where you could talk about reconstruction, depending on the cost. I know Mr. Kern, as you asked, Mayor, was going to get costs in terms of asphalt. And so at that point, you could designate, if this funding is put into local roads and street lighting, you could designate how much funds or how much you'd like to spend based on the funds that are in that fund during the budget season.
Councilman, you was about to speak.
Well, yeah, two separate things. So what do you think the rough split then in this proposal is between streets and lighting? Like, are we talking a couple 100,000 in lighting, or what was, I know we gotta wait for bids or whatnot, but, we gotta have a rough estimate.
We haven't actually talked that specific, but my gut would say less than 200,000 would be lighting, just because of the significant need for the roads themselves.
And then Mayor, if you wanted to propose any amount of this be to lead service lines, I'd be happy to support that.
Yeah, thank you. That's why I would like to know how much does it cost to, fix a lead service line, so it makes sense.
Based on the current contract we have for the general lead water service replacement, it's on average about $8,000 to $10,000 per home.
Okay, so we can get a lot of homes done with this money.
Yeah, I guess my thought was just because they said that that was kind of taken care of thus far with the lead service line replacement, and because of the community outcry for the roads to be repaired, and I know that that's the harder funding it seems that we can get, is why I just was comfortable with moving forward, like with designating this for the roads and lighting, because it seemed like the lead service lines were already kind of covered.
If I could piggyback on that, if I understood Mr. Blum correctly, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, you said that we have the money for lead pipes allocated, and I don't know if you said that or Mr. Kern said that, and that we're already budgeting an additional $1 million every year towards the lead line service repair or replacement. But we don't have that type of additional funding available at all for roads. And in fact, with respect to local roads, right now, we're only looking at having a carryover of about $81,000, which wouldn't even cover plowing through a winter season. Am I correct?
Yeah. Mr. Kern is the one that was talking about the funding for lead service lines, but that is correct. We have state revolving funds. We've got grants. There are more grants out there that we will be applying for. So we feel comfortable that we have other sources of funding for the lead service line, which is why administration's making this recommendation.
And we are significantly ahead, Mr. Kern, with respect to the lead line replacement. But we're not in that same position with respect to roads.
That's correct.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I understand your statement about putting pretty lights on 9 Mile Road, but I guess I would, motion was made that we were going to spend $1.9 on local streets and lighting, but I would hope that you seriously consider the local streets instead of pretty lights. That can come, but I think most of our residents are tired of driving 10 miles an hour down some of our streets because they're so bad that you're going to blow a tire if you go any faster. So I would just ask that, I know we don't have a division here that amount, but I would just hope that the thought process of having the pretty lights would kind of go in the background and spend that money on.
Yeah. Well, again, any projects will come before council, so your answer could be 0 on lighting and all of it going to roads. But,
Okay, I just wanted to put my thoughts out
I guess since we don't have numbers, we just have an amount to allocate. We don't have numbers how much, the local streets, I know Mr. Kern said he'll get that on what streets need what, and then a number for the lights, and then I will also have like the number for lead pipes, because I think all of us are on one accord that we do need local streets fixed, and we do need lighting, but I don't believe, I was one of those that had a lead pipe, and if I did, I would be like, forget the roads and the lights, I want clean drinking water. So I have to go with that. I cannot say one thing is better than the other. I have to make sure the residents, and I know all of council feel the same way. So I would like to see a number of how much it would cost for, those local streets. And I would like to see a number for the lighting that you are, saying that we need, and what areas where you're gonna put those at. And also, how many homes in addition, because it's never enough homes that we can fix a year if we don't have zero. Anytime we have a lead pipe, I don't care if we are ahead, we're not ahead enough. If people don't have clean water, that's a problem to me, I'm sorry. And I know that all the council feel the same way, it's not just me saying it, we all feel the same way. I would like to see some numbers of where this money is allocated, just like we do the CDBG funding, and we see the amount, and then we have a total where we can allocate those at. I would have liked to see that. But I guess we can always change it. I don't know, I know we got a motion.
Yeah, quick, so I think, right, the motion by Mr. Baker, seconded by Ms. Cobb Muniz, I think, right?
Yep.
Is that what-
Yes.
Well, why don't we, Madam Mayor, if I'd I'd motion to make an amendment then to that motion that we put 500,000 of this amount toward lead service lines, then see if that's supported. And I guess, like Mr. Kern said, 8,000 to 10,000 each, so, what are we looking at? What's the math here? 50?
Yeah, about 50 homes or a few more, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
50.
I'll amend it as recommended.
Motion and support, please call the roll. Do we have to, because we made a motion, it was supported. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, he just asked me to make an amendment, and so
Okay.
I just agreed to do so.
Okay.
Well, except, the motion's already on the floor, so we have to vote, like, on the amendment. Like a normal motion, and then if it goes through, it include the 500,000. If it doesn't, it just be back to what Mr. Baker originally amended. Originally motioned.
So you motioned it and he supported it? So-
Was that support then?
Yes,
The amendment?
yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep, so we're voting on the amendment first.
just the amendment, yep.
Yep.
Councilwoman.
I actually had a question. I hope I'm not gumming up this motion process. Because my question is, are we waiting for Mr. Kern's office to give us a breakdown? Or are we moving forward with a motion to designate the revenue replacement funds? Because I guess I'm a bit confused. I thought that what you had originally asked for was a breakdown before we make a decision, and then it sounds like we were gonna go ahead and make a decision.
We're gonna do both. We're making a decision, to put 500,000 towards the lead lines, but he's still gonna give us a breakdown of the street cost and the lighting cost, because we still have to allocate. Well, we already have a number of what we're gonna allocate that to, but as, for us to know and the residents to know how much that looks, what that looks like, I think we're gonna do both.
Because,
Go ahead, ma'am.
in terms of, if this is this an appropriate place for discussion, Ms. Albright? Okay,
Yes.
in terms of discussion, I guess I would feel more comfortable then, if we're gonna wait for numbers, I would feel more comfortable getting actual numbers, so that when we allocate, the revenue replacement funds, we can say this percentage will go to roads, this percentage will go to lighting, this percentage will go to the lead lines, if that's what we're gonna do. I would just feel, if we're gonna go in that route of actually breaking things down, then I'd like to have all that information ahead of making the determination.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the beginning, because the reason I was saying that, because maybe that 500,000, we probably can do more because well, I know the streets and stuff will cost a lot of money, but we had a breakdown to say the streets costed, just giving a silly number out there, 300,000, and then, you know, the lighting costs 200,000, it's $500,000, and then we can put all that, the rest of that money on the lead pipes. So now we're actually putting more money than just the 500,000, so seeing numbers do make sense.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, my concern is that we have available funding for the lead lines, and so I'm not minimizing the importance of us having clean drinking water, but I do also think that it's important for us to balance the scales as much as possible, and where we can tackle more than one thing in the city at a time, we should do that. So if we know that if our finance director is saying that we feel pretty secure with the funding that is allocated and coming in to do the lead line replacement, but we don't have that same security and funding for the roads, I just don't want us to minimize that. And I would rather see us say, let's hold off on lighting and take care of roads and lead lines than to just really dig into that road money and potentially not have enough to take care of these roads that are clearly, local roads that are clearly in big trouble. Because that's costing our residents when it comes to them driving their cars just to get to their homes. They're tearing up their vehicles just to get to their homes. They're getting stuck coming out of their driveways during the winter months just to get to work. So I want to make sure that we're not injuring our residents while we're also trying to help them, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it.
Madam
For
Mayor?
everything,
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Curley.
We had a motion and a second,
Yeah.
and we had a motion and a second for an amendment. So if you feel that strongly, since you second the motion, you can withdraw your support. And if we would ask Councilman if he wanted to withdraw his support, because as long as the motion is on the floor, we can't. So then, if we get the withdrawal of the motion and the amendment, then someone could make a motion to table.
So I withdraw my
I don't think you can, go ahead.
We can't just withdraw the motion now that it's on the table.
Is that coming from our attorney?
Mr. Albright, can you give us direction?
You can't withdraw a motion?
I'd be happy to. There was an initial motion to approve, which was made by Councilmember Baker, seconded by Ms. Cobb Muniz. And then Councilmember DeMonico made a motion to amend, which was then supported by Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
Baker, yeah.
So there should be a vote on the motion to amend, and if that passes, then the original motion would be amended, and then there would be a vote taken on that as well.
So you're saying you can't withdraw your motion?
Well, there's a motion to amend first
I
that needs to be
understand
decided.
that, but you're saying in the general rules, you're saying to us that someone who makes a motion or wants to amend the main motion cannot withdraw.
The time right now would be to have a vote on the motion to amend. That's what's before the council.
Why can't you withdraw your motion?
Because there has to be a vote on the motion to amend. There's been made a motion to amend, and it's been seconded. There needs to be a vote on that.
Okay, I won't argue with you. You're the attorney. I don't agree with you.
Okay.
I believe that a person can withdraw their motion or amendment anytime they want to, but you're saying they can't, so let's vote.
Thank you.
Councilman Baker, I know you want to say something.
No, I was just going to say in response to Councilwoman Cobb Muniz, that even it's a designation of the funds, but it's not necessarily saying that we're going to spend X amount of dollars on lighting. It's just an option to come to the table, but it's really just saying with the funds that are remaining, we're just putting it into place, giving it a designation, but that we may spend nothing on lights, and that would be almost 15, or 1.5 almost, that would go towards streets. So it's just really a designation. It's not a decision on like how much we're spending on any particular thing, because the project would have to be here and all the paperwork and bids and numbers and things.
Thank you for the clarification.
Do we have to, City Councilman?
Oh, I was just gonna say the other option for we could motion to table to a future meeting also, I think is which would go on top of the motion to amend, basically, and if we voted to do that, we could have the number, if you wanted to,
I would,
just as an option, that's all.
I would go that, I wouldn't mind doing, tabling this. It's not immediate, is it, City Manager?
If I can jump in and kind of second what Councilmember Baker said, part of the issue with AEW not like adding those clarifications in terms of like the cost of the projects is that we don't have funding. So they can't budget or like give us numbers, and if he gives us numbers this year for those projects, those numbers are vastly different from next year. And so administration was looking for council to designate the funding so that we can move forward with AEW giving us costs of those projects. In April, we'll have a 2-day budget session as usual, and council would be able to designate or identify which projects they would like to move forward with. And at that point, AEW could begin planning those projects appropriately. Without the designation of the funds, AEW wouldn't know what funding we have to move forward with those projects. So if that gives more clarity to kind of the process before we give direction to Mr. Kern to put the projects and the numbers together, they kind of have to have money in that fund to know what they can do.
So they can give us a number of what we need to work with first, and then we say, okay, if he says, oh, look, does the research, we need $500,000, that will give us more clarity to put this money towards the fight. He can't do the research first, and we designate it?
He absolutely can. Part of the issue, like prior to like the capital meeting, would be bringing those numbers forward, and we don't have the funding, and no funding is designated to do it. We'd essentially just be paying Mr. Kern for those numbers every single year until we designate money into that fund and we can actually do those projects. So once there's money in the local street fund and he knows that there are projects that can be done, he can identify the projects, give numbers on those, and then council would be able to select which projects based on the funding that was designated into that fund they'd like to move forward with.
Okay. So, Councilwoman?
No, I was just gonna say, at this point, I guess the best thing for us to do is deal with the amended motion that is right, so that we can then go back to the initial motion. So maybe if we can have a call, another vote on it.
Yeah, well, first I want to make sure everybody doesn't have any more discussion first. Any more discussion?
I'm good.
Okay, now,
good.
good. Councilman? Good? We have motion and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes?
Councilmember Cobb Muniz,
Yes.
Councilmember Curley.
Yes.
Okay. So I
That
know
was for
you,
the amendment.
That's for the amendment.
and then we have motion and support for the, can you explain that?
Well,
I
now,
know.
just addressing Councilmember Curley's, now, if Councilmember Cobb Muniz wants to withdraw her second, she could do so at this time. The council just had to vote on the motion to amend initially, that's passed. But because of the change in the initial motion, if one of the members wishes to withdraw either their support of the motion, and that could be done.
Hey, point of order. No, that's, once a motion's on the floor, the motion or seconder can't withdraw it on their own, and it's off the floor.
It's my understanding that they could because of the change in circumstances. I don't know if that's gonna happen in this case, but if the person who seconded wished to withdraw their motion, I believe that
I
they're
thought they
permitted
could
to do so.
too.
I think that's what we even just put in our, I don't have it handy, but in our bylaw change. Once the motion and the second's made and restated by the mayor, it said, except, I mean, I don't know if technically we did, but we had discussion after the motion and second. It's on the floor for the whole group, like one person can't withdraw it.
Well, no, it's the person
I can just
who's
withdraw my second, not the
withdrawing the
motion.
second. Yes, the motion is, Ms. Cobb Muniz could withdraw the fact that she seconded. Some other member could then second the motion, and then there could be a vote.
I feel I can save this conversation and say I'm not gonna withdraw, so we can move forward.
Okay, we have motion and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Cobb Muniz,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Mayor Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Curley.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we are at mayor and thank you, Mr. Kern, as well. And how long will it take you to give us those numbers?
I can have those for you for the next council meeting.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. Thank you for your hard work, and I know you've been working with the DPW director and our team here, so thank you, team, as well. We have mayor council report, starting with Councilman Curley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one thing. I can't see outside, so I don't know if it started snowing yet, but the latest thing was 5 to 8 inches. And I would just ask you that right now we have our DPW employees all ready to go out and remove the snow from the streets. And we have mechanics out there to repair the truck if it comes back that needs repairing. So they're going to be there all night. So I would ask that you shout up a prayer that that the mechanics will be safe and not get injured at the DPW, and the drivers of the snow plows will be safe throughout the night. And you all know there's all kinds of people who say they're going too fast, they're going too slow. I just shoveled my walk, and now you got snow on my walk. But aside from all of that, we can answer that. But I want to tonight, when you go to bed, to pray for the folks who are going to be working all night. And I would suggest to the council, if you've never done it before, you could, maybe not tonight, but next time we have a big snowstorm, you're going to go over to DPW and say, I'd like to ride with you for 4 or 5 hours. So that would be fun if you've never done it before. So that's it, Madam Mayor.
Or we can piggyback on that as a council. If it have a big snowstorm, we all can meet up at Spindler and go down the slope. I like that better.
I like that idea, but
I did that one.
I like that idea,
And
but
then-
anybody over 85 doesn't have to do it.
I thought it was 80, a little bit later, 87. You ain't make it yet, so you got to do it.
You know what?
So, and you have to make a snowman.
I'd go over
But-
there and I'd make all you guys look silly. I'd go down on my belly.
Councilman DeMonico.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you everyone that I can't see over there, and thank you everyone for putting everything together for today. And what was I going to? Councilman Curley, I have done the snowplow ride, as Mr. Paolucci knows, and I do recommend everyone do that because when everyone thinks the snowplow is going 40 miles an hour down their street, it is not. That snow moves far going 15 miles an hour. I was watching the odometer as you're driving. That snow moves, and you can't go any slower than that, really, or else we'll be towing our own snowplow out of the street. So, that's all, Mayor.
Councilwoman.
First of all, I want to say congratulations to our police department for being fully staffed, and to our newest recruit, Police Officer Scott Hawkins, who was inducted into the police department on yesterday. It was a pleasure to be here for his swearing in, and I'm excited for what's ahead for our city. I also just want to say thank you again to all of the city departments and administration who continue to make our city shine and look great. And as I've said to some of you in person, I'll continue to say that I hope that the work that we do up here well represents and shows our appreciation for what you guys do every single day. I understand that one of our council persons has an upcoming birthday, and so I want to say in advance, because I won't see you, well, I might see you, but I don't think we have a council meeting before them. I want to say happy birthday in advance. I think it's amazing. I love birthdays. I think birthdays are wonderful. So if you don't celebrate a birthday, I'm very sorry, but I think birthdays are amazing. So happy birthday.
That's what I thought you were
So we
talking
have
about.
two councilmen with birthdays. Okay, awesome.
Listen, everyone's February but me until you.
Oh, yeah, my birthday is February.
Oh, wow, awesome. Okay, well, hopefully we'll get to do something maybe on the side to celebrate. But happy birthday.
Well, thanks. I wasn't gonna say anything, but I won't say who called me out. But no, I'm just gonna say to everybody, I think the meeting went smooth. Thank you for the information. Welcome to our newest police officer. I was unable to attend, but I had some pressing things to take care of. So So I couldn't make it. Normally I try to get out for that, but I'm just glad to have, to me, you can never have too many police officers, but, you know, I like to feel safe. So just thank you to everyone, and I'm hearing if it hasn't started snowing yet, we are supposed to get a lot of snow, so if you're traveling, I just ask that everyone take caution out there, be careful. You know, watch out for other drivers, because I know everybody here drives safe and cautious. So that's just it, and like Councilman Curley said, we want our DPW workers to be safe out there too. So with that being said, I just thank you all, and hope administration has a good time, has an easy ride home now. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to thank everyone who was at the hearing of the public. We like to always hear what you have to say and to take that into consideration. Thank you to all the staff, Mr. Kern and your company, and our team for putting this together. I also want to thank council for making sure that we added and amended that amount of money to lead pipes. That is one of our main concerns. Everything is our concern, but we have to have priority, and the better quality of life of people's safety and drinking water is something that should be free. But in this world, it's not, so we have to do our best to make sure that we put the money to where it's supposed to go to. So saying that, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Moved
I'll second it.
and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Curley?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Communis?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes. Have a good night, everybody.